So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's 9 o'clock Ghana time. So, good evening to the folks in Ghana and other parts of Africa. You are joining us from the Middle East. It's and East Africa. It's past midnight now. If you are joining us from Australia, like Dr. Bamfo, it's very early in the morning. So, thank you, Dr. Peter Bamfo, Adjei-Bamfo, who is a lecturer in one of our universities in Australia. He was with me in the business school. I'm going to ask him to introduce himself soon. But what we're doing today is to have a chat around the issue of people who have aspirations to study abroad. It's a major issue because, in my view, several of our people are excellent and should be able to get a lot of opportunities abroad to study. But sometimes, because we are not informed about some of the elements involved, we usually make a couple of very petty mistakes that take us out from the game. So we invited Professor Dr. Peter Bamfo to take us through his own experience because he was in Ghana, he applied for scholarships, he got into a university in Australia, finished, and has become a lecturer there. Forgive me, Peter was my TA, so when I call him Dr. Bamfo, I forget that he was my TA, so I try to refer to him as Peter. But
Prof, I think we should drop the formalities and you can go with Peter.
Well, in Ghana, you wear your crown. I call it wearing your crown, so it's important. Yes. So please, can you introduce yourself? Maybe your name, a little bit of your educational journey in Ghana before you went to Australia. Yes.
Thank you, Prof. Bawole. My name is Peter Adjei-Bamfo, currently a lecturer in management at Sturt University here in Australia, and I currently reside in the beautiful city called Port Macquarie. It reminds me so much of my days in Labadi and Osu, where I used to, enjoy the beach most of the time when I want to reflect and all of that. So it reminds me of those old days. But most importantly, I would like to thank you, Professor Bawole, for the opportunity to share my story to inspire others who want to study abroad and also have some form of international educational experience. This is very crucial because it helps us all to become global citizens and then also be able to think differently. And then if we decide to go back home to contribute to development in Ghana, we learn from the experiences we find ourselves or the experiences we go through here to be able to contribute to development in Ghana. So I'm very excited to share my experience and the journey that I've gone through, and then perhaps some few lessons that others could learn from. And also, I welcome all the audience who made time to join this session.
Great.
Thank you, Bob.
Peter, where did you school in Ghana? Which primary school or JHS or secondary school? Give us, because we want to be sure that you are one of us.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. So I attended Forces Basic School, one of the 5th garrison schools in Burma Camp.
Okay.
And over there, we learned a lot of discipline, and that sort of also contributed to our upbringing. But I often want to emphasize this point, and my wife is that often disagrees with me when I make mention of this. But today she's not here, so I'm going to talk about it. Throughout my basic school, I wasn't that sharp of a kid, like, someone very intelligent or very smart. Perhaps I'll say that I didn't know the essence of education then, and so I didn't pay a lot of attention and seriousness that I was supposed to associate with my education. So I basically went through that journey from primary, same school, Forces Basic School in Birmingham. I went through primary. I also went through JHS, also in the same school, Forces Basic School. And then after JHS, I transitioned to Odan Senior High in Akemoda. So if any Odan school colleagues are able to watch this video or perhaps join, they would be able to recognize me. So at Odan school, I studied business secretariat, which is related to the business course I wanted to study, but I wasn't particularly comfortable with a particular accounting lecturer or teacher. He was very serious and strict and often comes to the accounting class every Friday and then just inspect our ledgers and, came as those who sort of canceled their figures and all of that. So he comes around and then inspect the ledgers and all that. So it didn't make me enjoy that class. So I sort of ran away from that class to join the business secretariat class. And in the business secretariat class, there were only ladies. So I had to force myself to, to stay in that class. And that experience also taught me a lot of lessons, particularly how to live with ladies and treat them and, cope with them. So it also taught me a lot. But it made me quite popular in my senior high school, especially during my days, because I was one of I think we were two. Yeah, we were two guys, but one was often not coming to class at all. So it was always me and, appearing anytime we show up anywhere. So they popularly called me Peter B2. So business 2 class.
I
And I
see.
was the only guy.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
I bet, Prof, you are not aware of this story, right?
No, this one I haven't heard.
Yeah. So yeah, I
I
was
heard
I
from
was the
what
only guy.
to University of Ghana.
Yeah, throughout the 3 years. So fast forward, after completing senior high, I wanted to further my business studies within the University of Ghana, but my WASI result was not very strong, as I said earlier, also contributing to the kind of support or kind of understanding I had about education. So the results was not very strong, but I still was developing interest in education. So I spoke with a few people who were within the academia, especially my uncle, Professor Tano Debra. I'm not sure. I think you know him, right? So I spoke with him. Then he was like the head of department for food and nutrition.
Yeah.
So he suggested that there was a program being run for 2 years, which sort of gave me a bridging into the business school, which was the diploma in public administration. So there was an diploma in accounting, and then diploma in public administration. And then I enrolled in the diploma in public administration. I registered for an entrance exam, sat for the entrance exam, and then got an admission. And then it was through the diploma in public administration studies that I got to know Professor Bawole. I had the opportunity of Professor Bawole teaching me, I think before he went more into his PhD up in Manchester, right? But before the entrance exam, I think we were attending some form of classes to prepare for the entrance exam. And then within that University of Ghana environment, I used to hear doctor, professor. I wasn't really understanding what it was. And then I asked a friend of mine who was a brother of Professor Bookpin. So he explained to me what the doctor was, what the professor was, and basically how the transitioning process or the professional trajectory for academics looks like within that profession. So there and then I told, even before the admission, diploma in public administration admission, I told my friend that I would definitely do a PhD, go all the way to a PhD. But I kept my promise without he knowing. And so through the diploma in public administration, I graduated, came back to University of Ghana Business School as I intended, did Bachelor of Administration with a specialization in public administration. And then after that, I think I work closely with Professor Bawole, yourself, and then other faculty members around. I also enjoyed some of their teaching as well, especially Professor um, Robert Barton, sorry,
Mm,
Richard Barton,
mm,
Professor Abdullah Gafaru,
mm,
uh, several others, and that inspired my that inspired me to do research because I enjoy the way they, do their research, share their research throughout their teaching and all of that. So I felt, very inspired to also do research. And then right after my bachelor studies, I graduated and then I applied to become a TA for Professor Bawole.
mm.
And during that time, I wasn't sure that I'll get through to be the TA. Or I'll be picked for the TA position. So I sent out other applications to other places, but that was my first choice actually. And lo and behold, I got that offer and I grabbed it with all my hands and legs. Yeah. So
Thank you, Peter,
after
for sharing.
yeah
Just
after
yeah.
okay, correct.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Just
ahead.
just a little bit. So after 1 year of TA, I also applied to do my MPhil, and then throughout the MPhil, I completed, and then also got inspired to go further. But now to go further, I decided to get some international experience because I've studied all my life in Ghana, particularly University of Ghana, and then I felt like, yeah, why not get some international experience? So I had some discussions with Professor Bawole, and then you also inspired me to do my PhD outside.
Mhm.
So we had some discussions, particularly after my MPhil studies. I even when before my MPhil results will come out, or before I would graduate. I think one time you took us to Bush Canteen, one of the bougiest restaurants in East Legon, to enjoy some fufu. And then whilst enjoying the fufu, I disclosed to you that I have seen some PhD opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and then I want to apply. So we discussed it further, what the project was about and everything, and then you were happy and you said I should put in the application, and then if I need anything, you'll be happy to support me with that. So I put in the application, and then unfortunately this first one didn't really go through.
Mm,
That was a big blow to me because I was so excited and so pumped up. But that was my first major rejection.
mm.
So we
Great.
had a chat about it, and
Yeah.
then we were like, yeah, that's normal, keep going. And then I kept pushing, and finally I'm here. But before I'd get here or get the opportunity to do my PhD in Australia, I went through several applications. I can't count the number of countries. I have about maybe 10, 20 countries with multiple schools, Finland, Denmark, Canada, Sweden, Switzerland, um, Norway, Mauritius, Japan, several of them, several countries. And all these applications didn't go through. I kept receiving this, we regret to inform, emails. And, it was a big blow. Even in the US, I even got some support from some colleagues whom I supported with some research data collection in Ghana, and then they were inspired by, they were willing to support me because I told them my story and my passion and everything, and then they bought some GRE books for me and then helped me register for GRE, and then I wrote the GRE. Results came out. It was quite good, but I applied for some schools. I think Professor Bawole hooked me up with some potential supervisors within the US, Sandy and Co. And they were also excited to supervise me, but unfortunately, the application didn't go through as expected.
Okay,
Um,
okay, Peter,
yeah.
hold it there. Hold it
Okay.
there.
All right.
I want to get our participants
Mm,
to appreciate something. Okay, I
okay.
see Professor Osekwachi. Professor Osekwachi, you are Australia trained. So if you want to share your experiences, I could bring you in. Professor Sekwachi is a professor of accounting at the University of Ghana Business School. He's joined,
Oh, okay.
and I see him online. So, Professor Sekwachi, if you don't mind, I will bring you into the meeting. But you said something, and I want to summarize that before we continue. When you started, you said you were not the, if you like, the roof shattering person.
Yeah.
So I have told people that to get admission abroad and to win a scholarship, you must not be the best candidates ever. You just have to have, number one, people who know what to do and to show you how to do it. Number two, you must have resilience, and you started talking about some of the processes that you had gone through. So you must have resilience. You must be willing to learn from every no objection that you get, every no response that you must be willing to learn through it. You must be willing to apply again. You must be willing to, in some cases, write entrance exam. Some cases, pay admission. They call it application fees and all of that. So if you are here and it's your desire to study abroad, as you heard, you must not be the best, candidate available. You just need to be able to position yourself well, and you are able to win a scholarship. Win a scholarship. Now, Peter, I'll come back to you. So, tell me the story of the rejections, frustrations, how did you soak it? How did you manage that process of wanting to get out, applying all the time, spending time, and getting rejected every time? How did you manage that process, and what led to your ability to sustain yourself through that process?
Thank you, Prof. Well, it was quite a very challenging. This whole journey, as I'm talking about, started in 2017, and then I was finally successful in 2019. So if you could look at the dates, 2017, I was still applying throughout. 18, I was still applying, and in 2019, I finally got it. And most of the time, some of these applications were maybe direct applications to maybe direct contact with supervisors, and then discuss, and then they will decide to support your application. And then after submitting, maybe you are not selected as part of the final selection, or you could be as part of a project that the school is running, or the professor you contacted is running, and then it turns out not to be successful. But for me, one of the things that helped me, well, it was a challenge because I was spending a lot of time in these applications. I was spending, even before I'll come to work at the business school, I wake up sometimes around 4 or 3:30, do my first shift at home, and then come. Sometimes I even call Professor Bawole that I'll be late for an hour, and if he could pardon me, and then I'll sleep a little bit before I come in, and maybe start at 9 or 10, and then work with him till evening, and then I go back, and then continue at the University of Ghana, what's it called? Valco Hall, just be in the study room, and then, continue these applications. So it was a lot of time invested in these applications. So anytime it doesn't go well, I find myself,
you get
like
broken.
it weighs, I feel very broken. It weighs on me a lot. Sometimes it feels like you should just quit and look for something else to do. But at some point too, I feel like it's a cumulative process. So I have to keep going, learn from, perhaps if I'm lucky and I get some feedback from the applications, I find out where I fall short, and then I use that feedback to improve that application. Sometimes when the application is a project-based application, I look at the proposal and then maybe tweak the proposal a little bit, and then see how I can strengthen it.
Okay.
And then keep
So
applying.
again, hold it. So I want to summarize the issues. Number one, that this process of getting admission and winning a scholarship has to be an iterative process. You have to apply to many schools. You have to apply to many universities. You have to identify professors whose interest is in your area. or professors who have projects, and you write to them and they will invite you to apply. Because you are applying from one professor to another professor, from one university to another university, you
Yeah.
have to keep changing your or tweaking your research proposal to fit
Definitely.
these individuals are interested in, which means that there's a lot of work that has to go in every now and then. And then, you are not guaranteed at any point that, look,
Oh,
this is going to be the case. So through this process, you build a lot of resilience. Sometimes you spend a lot of money, you spend a lot of time. And let me underscore one important point: hard work. In other words, you have to put in a lot of hard work. Scholarship money is not free money. It's money to be
of
toiled
course.
for. So it's important that you take note of this. Now let's go back. Let's go back to you, Peter. So now let's go to the process. So now, I know that our people would have specific questions to ask you. For example, what qualification somebody needs? What are the basic qualifications somebody will need to be able to get an admission abroad or a scholarship? And maybe we can focus on master's and PhD level, basically. Do you want to summarize that? We are planning to spend 30 minutes or not more than that, but we see how
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Prof. Yes. So for admissions, for international students, you can come to Australia and study at any level you prefer, even including at what they call TAFE. TAFE is basically like what we used to have as polytechnics or doing a certificate course within the polytechnic environment. But if you have your finances available and you wish to come and study in Australia, you can come and study from all that level to the PhD level. But it is just the case that for that TAFE level and then for undergraduate level, there are not a lot of um, fully funded scholarships available. However, for master's level and then also for PhD level, especially masters by research or research related masters, there are some opportunities or scholarships available that you may want to apply for. But you need to, I mean, in the application screening process, you need to have a number of things available. For example, to be able to ace your chances or enhance your chances, you should be able to have some form of research training, right? Maybe if you did a bachelor's and you want to come and do a PhD by research, sorry, a master's by research, you should have some form of research training currently existing. It may not necessarily be an MPhil that you are coming to repeat another MPhil here, but maybe you did something like a long essay, that may be helpful to you, or probably you are currently working with a research um, organization, that you think that area may also be relevant to your current application. If you also possibly have some form of research output, this could be publications like journal articles or book chapters. That could also be very helpful.
Mm,
Now, it depends on the area, the discipline you are applying to study in. So, for
mm,
example, if you are applying to study within the business circles or business field, you may have to have your publications published within journals that are ranked under the Australian Business Deans Council general ranking.
mm,
And if you are perhaps maybe applying to study maybe engineering and mathematics or IT, they may also have their respective industry and relevant general ranking arrangements. So you should make sure that whatever articles you publish should be within that respective disciplines recognized general ranking sort of arrangement. And then when I talk about research experience, it may not necessarily be that you should be working or fully employed by a research organization. It could be maybe a TA work that you've done before, maybe a research teaching and research assistant that you've done before, or you might have also maybe been part of some form of data collection or survey arrangement with some other organization. It depends on how you frame your case, right? But for PhD applications, the research training or the evidence you provide for these areas should be very strong. You may not necessarily, or you may not be able to pass with any evidence that, for example, you've been involved in a research data collection somewhere and then you are using it. But at least for the master's level, this may be a bit useful for you. And then also, especially for PhD level, I know that some of you might have done an MPhil, which is very good and puts you in a very good position. But in the process of applying, it is important that you make it very easy for the officers reviewing your application. So it's important for you to also apply to the graduate research, School of Graduate Studies. You have to apply to them for what we call thesis grade, right? Because if you just submit your transcript, often at times your transcript does not contain your thesis grade, or perhaps the full credit hours that your MPhil thesis covered. So you need to apply for what we call thesis grade so that you can see exactly the credit hours that your MPhil thesis covered,
Okay.
right? Yeah. I think these are the main things. But also, after you have all these information, you have a very strong CV and all that. And then you reach out to, you have a look at the school that you are intending to apply's application process. And some of them encourages you to reach out to supervisors directly to discuss the research that you want to undertake and then get their support before you submit your application. Because sometimes you may require them to complete part of your application form for you. So if you contact them and then discuss with them and then they express interest to supervise you, then you may send over the form to them to complete the part that they need to complete so that they can use it as part of your application process. But there are some universities also that do not require you to contact the supervisors directly. They first require you to apply to the university's admissions office, and then they themselves will look at your topic and then share with the supervisory team to see if any of them are interested in the topic that you intend to research on. So
Great.
basically, that's how the process looks like. I'm
Okay.
not sure if
There
Prof
are
would like to add something else.
some questions on the platform, but before I again reiterate the point. Number one, that you must have some proposal that you have written. Number two, you must show that you have some research experience, and this can mean either that you have written a dissertation before, or you have published a paper before, or you have published a book chapter before, or
Yeah.
some form of research experience which you should be able to demonstrate. Now, I would make a point here that some of these you must make clear on your CV and sometimes in your statement of purpose, or what we typically call your personal statement. You should highlight these qualities that you have, and to show to the potential supervisors or the university. You also need, and I said this, and you also need strong recommendations, because recommendations are very
Yeah.
important
I was,
to
I was,
yes,
if you want me to add this bit,
yes,
I think from my experience and from what some colleagues have observed, I don't particularly see requirements for statement of purpose in PhD and master's research applications. But
okay,
what I see is after you obtain admissions or perhaps scholarship and maybe you're applying for your visa, they require what we call what's it called? Genuine temporary entrance. It's like a statement where you express, maybe introduce yourself and also talk about what what do you think are the benefits of that research study to your professional goals, your long-term professional goals, and then whether or not you intend to stay in Australia or you intend to go back.
Right.
But yeah.
That's good. I think so it's important that we highlight this requirement. For some countries and some places, they still ask for it. But
Yeah.
as we understand, this is not a major emphasis. The other thing
Yeah.
I think you should take note is that universities differ. For some universities,
Yeah.
you have to contact the
Contact.
advisors. For some other universities, you don't have to do that. So you have to look up to be sure that the university has these requirements, and then you can follow them. They are. I don't want us to be here for too long. There's a gentleman, what's his name, Kojo Junior. Kojo Junior is talking about the use of agents for Australia. That if you are for some countries, you don't need an agent, but Australia insists on agents. What do you want to say? Because I know that you also went through something like that, right?
Yeah, I think it has become very popular lately in Australia here. Other students who have contacted me in recent times, I think the past 2 years, wanting to apply for admissions or scholarships have been, referred to contact an agent and then work through an agent. But during my days, I think somewhere 2019, I I think my first application was to Edith University, and I didn't have to use an agent. But my second application, my application to Western Sydney University, I had to use an agent. So I went to an agent, I think PFL or something, in Oponglo, somewhere Oponglo. I reached out to them, and then they assisted me with the application because that was a requirement of the university. And then I had it. So it depends, but it has become one of the major things. But I think using an agent is also particularly important because they are more experienced and they know how to help you in framing your narrative and trying to navigate some of the pitfalls that you may go through. And lately, I've also heard a lot of instances where students have applied, gain admission, applied, and then their visa application have been refused. So now it becomes the responsibility of the agent to appeal the case on your behalf. And if you have a very good agent, or at least the stories that I've heard, most of the agents who are able to appeal the visa refusal for their students are able to overturn, their decision. So using an agent may be very helpful in that sense.
Okay. Now, Peter, let's Ghana for the and one scholarship. So
Mhm.
let's talk about scholarships.
Okay.
I need you to give us what are some of the forms of scholarships that applicants can look up to, uh, and especially what forms of scholarship would you consider dangerous scholarship for students not to run into, and which
Mhm.
you know give us an overview of what they should look
Okay,
at.
all right. I think when it comes to scholarship, I would first mention that each student must have like their own long-term plan. So depending on your long-term plan, for example, either you want to stay or you hope to stay in Australia for the long term, or you hope to return to Ghana after your studies, or perhaps you are financially capable but not enough, but you just only need a little bit of support to be able to go through your studies. So it depends on your own plans, or perhaps you have family that you want to also come over with, or perhaps who can also, be with you here whilst you study and then support you, or you are just coming alone. So it depends on your plan and then your particular situation. So this may influence your decision to choose some of these scholarships. So, but for example, there's this Australian Award scholarship scheme, which is currently open and will be closing on the 30th of April. So it's usually for participating countries within Africa, Pacific, and Asia, and Ghana is likely to be included within the as a participating country. So the scholarship, if you're lucky, the scholarship provides you with almost everything, including your flights, return flights back to Ghana. It covers your school fees. It offers some stipend. It covers health insurance that you would require here. A number of packages, right? But as I said, it depends on your plan. So if you want to go back and then you take up the scholarship, at the end of the training, you would have to go back because your return flight is already ready on your day of arrival. It's already ready, so you have to go back and then perhaps stay in Ghana for probably like 2 years before you can even come back.
Now, and into you farm. Okay, well, you don't answer that one. You say Ghana, the I'll say you. Match in the man should be match in the man should be school. Anyways, don't answer that question. Don't answer
Okay,
that.
Prof. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So there are others are also like the research training, Australian government research training scholarship, and that was what I had. So with this, it's also covered tuition, offered some stipend, covered health insurance, almost basically everything. And then in my time, I was even lucky to the point that it even covered my visa application. So this is quite one of the most generous ones you can have, and it's quite generous, very generous, yeah. And I usually recommend to people who are like very good and know that they check all the boxes,
yeah.
especially on a merit basis, right? So you can consider this particular scholarship. There are others that are also focused on regional communities. So universities within regional communities. So for example, my university is within a regional area, and we also have some specific scholarships that is meant to entice or encourage students to come and study within the university and then also contribute to the community and make the community vibrant. Right. So whilst you study, they expect you to be working, or perhaps you'll be working and supporting yourself. So all this helps to make the community vibrant. So some of these scholarships are also available. I think within the Western Australia, the government or the Premier's University Scholarship offers between 5,000 to 50,000 one-time offer to students who international students who wish to study there. The places are very less, I think very few. It's very competitive, but if you are lucky and you get one of these, you are good. You're good to go for the long haul. There are
Now,
also some. Oh, sorry.
hold on. So I wanted to draw attention to the point about the variations in the scholarships and particular circumstance of individuals, and also that you should talk about project-based scholarships as well to see if yeah, please.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Prof. Yeah. So I was just moving on to. I think before the project base, there's a university specific
Yeah,
scholarships that are
yes.
more on merit basis and also disciplinary basis. So, for example, some are available for those doing maybe sciences, nursing, midwifery, perhaps dentition or paramedics and stuff like that. So if you are studying a program within these areas, you may be eligible for some of the scholarships. It doesn't mean only those disciplines have those scholarships. I mean, even accounting could get that opportunity because there are also some endowments funds which have been set up to recognize the effort of certain individuals within the community, or perhaps they themselves have set up their own trust funds to support certain areas like agriculture and all sort of areas. So these are specifically for particular disciplines that those individuals or owners of those trusts intend
One,
them to
yeah.
support. Yes.
So
So
hold on, Peter, hold on. In a video that I posted on my handle, I had indicated that when you are looking for a scholarship, check to find out the goal, the purpose, if you like, the vision of the scholarship.
Yeah.
Because every scholarship has a reason why it is instituted. Some scholarships require that you should be somebody who has contributed to society before. In other words, if you were already working, you are better. Some of them require that you show leadership. Some of them require that you show volunteering spirit. Some of them require that you are a sports person. So the scholarships vary. So it's always important to look at that. And so the point Peter just made is that if somebody instituted a scholarship and put something as the foundation, or if you like, the vision of that scholarship, you must meet it. And I know that in Ghana, we always have a lot of multi-background. So you can tweak your narrative to fit a particular scholarship because the vision of the scholarship is in a certain way. So I
Yeah.
want to make that point. But there are a few questions. Somebody says, what's the name of the scholarship you got? What's the name of the scholarship you got? Somebody wants to target it,
That was the Australian government's research training program scholarship.
Okay, so Australian Government Research Training Scholarship. So Samuel Ankama, please. That's the one that you got there. Is it the Ankama I know at local government? If it is, give me a thumbs up. There's another one who. So Francis Kujo is the immediate past BAJCR president, and he said. His question is on the IELTS, the language test, and whether or not this is unexpected something for us, for people in Ghana, and what score is considered important. Kujo, I hope I asked your question well. So, Peter, to those ones,
Yes,
and
Prof.
then to you as we go towards the end of the program. Yes.
Okay, Prof. Yes. One may think that we are from an English-speaking country, so we may not require to have an English test. But unfortunately, yes, we have to have an English test. There are tests like IELTS, academic, PTE, that's Pearson test of English, the Cambridge C1 advanced test, and several others you are required. And it depends on the university you are applying to. So some of them may limit their English test to maybe IELTS and maybe some other things, and then perhaps leave PTE out. So please have a look at the university that you are applying to. They may have their specific test required, but it doesn't mean that it sort of limits you. If you already have the PTEs academic and you think a particular university is asking for IELTS and you don't have IELTS, you can just write briefly to the admission team and ask them. Even though they've not stated or they've not included PTE on their website, you can send an email briefly to the admissions office to ask them if they are happy to accept PTE, and that's what you have, right? But in terms of the score, required score or points, I think it depends on the program you are applying to. So, for example, if you are applying to maybe the sciences and the program is very competitive, you may be required to have a higher score, perhaps maybe 7 plus going. If the program is not very competitive and probably the university needs more students to cover or to attend or to enroll in that program, the score may be a bit low. So it depends on the university itself and then also the discipline you are applying to. But for the sciences, and then I think some of the other disciplines that are regulated heavily by industry bodies, the industry bodies often have set the English requirements, English minimum requirements. So those industry bodies might have set that minimum points you need to have. But yeah, just have a look at the various universities that you are intending to apply to, and they will definitely have those information there.
Great. And I think there's a question on, it says the scholarships awarded automatically, or do you have to apply separately? And because you said something like your situation and all of that, so somebody wants to know whether utomu anu watum and I say also swimming and sana wakwachi enti.
Okay. So with some of the scholarship offers, so you may be, when you're applying for that the university's admission, they may have a session as part of the admission for online admission form indicating or asking you to express interest in applying for a particular scholarship. So in that case, they may use the same data or files that you use or supporting document that you use in applying for the admissions. They may use the same data to assess your or perhaps to assess your eligibility and then also competitiveness for that particular scholarship. But in some instances, they may require you to apply for the admission separately, and then you may have a deadline for the scholarship also separately that you may have to also apply for. So, for example, when I was applying to the Editcon University, I applied for the admission separately, and then I had admission. I applied almost at the same time, actually. So I applied for the admission, and then I applied for the scholarship. And then I was fortunate to get admission, but the scholarship process placed me on hold for a while. And then I think they ended up giving me the no regret feedback. We regret to inform outcome. So negative outcome. So after I got that outcome, I contacted some colleagues. I think Emmanuel Tinakwa and brother, and then other colleagues who recommended other universities for me, like Newcastle University and Western Sydney University and other universities. So I applied. When I looked at the admission requirements and the application process, those universities, particularly the Western Sydney University, recommended that I get an educational agent to assist in the process. So I went to the educational agent who helped in the application process. But that application process also required me to apply through a different to apply for the scholarship through a different process, right? But whilst I was waiting, I think after I got I had to at the end of the day, I got the Western Sydney University scholarship, and then around the same time, very short period, I was I think I got it, but it was within engineering, mathematics, and IT. And then I was contemplating, and then there was something went wrong. I think after I didn't get the ECU scholarship, and then went to apply for the Western Sydney before I would receive the outcome or the successful outcome, I applied the ECU scholarship again separately. So my admission was still valid and it was valid for the subsequent year, right? Because I think I might have asked them to defer me or something. So I applied for the scholarship again separately. And then just within the same month, I got the ECU, Editcon University Scholarship, and then also the Western Sydney University Scholarship. And then I had to choose. So now it was even difficult for me to choose between the two. And I had to pray to God to guide my decision.
So the
I
good
think
news,
I even went to Teddy to advise me on the choice.
right?
Yeah, I
The
even went to see Teddy to advise me on the
Attorney
choice.
was on the line. So the good news I'm announcing from the conversation is that whilst the process may be tough, sometimes it comes with a lot of heartbreaks. It can also be very, very sweet. It's not just only Peter, Dr. Bamfo, who won 2 scholarships at the same time. All my TAs and the TAs in our department who applied for scholarship and had to do many years or many applications, anytime they were getting the scholarship, they were getting 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and they get confused. They don't know which one to choose. Okay, so there's light at the end of the tunnel. So don't get despondent. If you are now going through the process, don't get despondent. You can get a scholarship. Just make sure you get good advice, and then you should be fine. I've seen one of the participants says, I hold an MPhil in crop science from University of Ghana, and I'm interested in PhD. what do you advise, please? So my advice will be that crop science may be too broad at the PhD level like that. So look for a narrow one of the areas of crop science, biotechnology, genetic, whatever. Specified. Look for a specific area that may be of interest to you, and then begin to look for schools that run those programs. And when you get to search the program, and then it will take you through to the schools that run those programs. And so you will see several schools that run the program, and then you can go through each of them to find out what application processes there are and what scholarship there are available also. You can, as I have a video on my page on databases, using admission databases, and Professor Dr. Bamfo mentioned it. You can go there and register your interest. So if you go there, you can indicate all the areas of study that you are interested in and the types of scholarship, and you can get alerts every now and then. So it prompts you when there's a new scholarship. But if you search, you can find, and if you look for advice, you can also find. I'm trying to look for, I think there's one more question somebody put there. I'm trying to trace it. Okay, not sure. Yeah, I think you answered that alongside with the first one that we were looking for. Now, Peter, so let's get into, we've done 50 minutes. I want us to do 1 hour. We plan to do 30 minutes, but it looks like it's getting exciting. So let's be bringing the conversation to a close. What are some of the things you have left on your notes that you haven't spoken? Would you want to go through those very quickly so that we can?
Yes, I will. I think usually some potential students or potential international students may also be wondering if they could study and work while studying
Very
in
important.
Australia.
Yes.
And yes,
No, so
well,
that point, Peter, that point comes along with if somebody has been given a part scholarship, something like that, and then
yeah.
work, don't handle those two together. Let's see.
Okay. So for example, yeah, I think that's a good point, Prof. So yeah, so in case maybe you want to fund yourself, or perhaps